You're listening to the mother of all talk shows with me, George Galloway, coming from Bonnie, Scotland on WBAI, serving New York and the tri-state area.
America, this is the President of the United States. You are listening to George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows. George is a Scotsman, unlike me, an Irishman. Enjoy.
Welcome to the mother of all talk shows. And actually, it's quite a symmetry in Barack Obama's paean of praise to this show just a second or two ago, because I'm broadcasting to you from Scotland, but from the Scottish Catholic Media Office, in the midst of a sectarian storm which has burst over Scotland in the last 24 hours, where the football manager, Neil Lennon, the manager of the Catholic heritage football team Glasgow Celtic, has received yet another suspect package containing explosive devices, a nail bomb, as has a Queen's Counsel, Mr. Paul McBride, who is the lawyer to Mr. Lennon and Glasgow Celtic, and has a politician from the Scottish Parliament, Mrs. Tricia Godman, who is a famous Celtic supporter. And all of that because I'm actually standing for election to the said Scottish Parliament here in the city of Glasgow, where, well, let's just say a 400-year sectarian divide clearly isn't over. We'll be talking about those elections in Scotland and in the north of Ireland. That's the small part of Ireland which is still occupied by the British state. We'll be talking about the elections in Wales and in local government in England, where the Liberal Democrat Party, now I know for you in the United States that probably sounds quite cuddly, Liberal and Democrat. Most of you listening to me are probably Liberal Democrats, but the Liberal Democrat Party in this country is in fact keeping a right-wing Conservative government in power, and they've become exceedingly unpopular as a result, and are likely on the 5th of May, which is the election day for all those polls, to be punished most powerfully. But of course we'll be talking international as well. We're talking about Libya, where the British government has just announced that it's sending boots onto the ground. That's the boots that we said we would not send onto the ground, and the boots which are expressly forbidden by the United Nations Security Council resolution that NATO is supposed to be implementing. Now, unusually, maybe, the United States of America has declined to follow the fading British Empire onto the ground in Libya. Or maybe they're just doing it surreptitiously, and maybe they're going to, in the end, follow us after all. Of course, just like in Vietnam, these are not soldiers, you understand. These are trainers, advisors. Well, you in the United States know what happens. You sent in a few hundred trainers and advisors into the south of Vietnam, and you ended up losing dead 58,000 US military personnel. You ended up with hundreds of thousands of wounded and maimed people, who, many of whom never walked again, many of whose minds were never right again, not to mention the millions of Vietnamese that you killed. It all starts with a detachment of trainers and advisors, and it ends in B-52 bombardment, although in the case of Libya, that's actually the other way around. We'll be talking about the unfolding revolution in Yemen, where already this morning, and you've just woken up, there are 5 dead in the centre of Sana'a, the capital of Yemen. The revolution there moving, I think, to a decisive and climactic point now. In Bahrain, the occupation of that small island state by its big Saudi Arabian neighbour and others continues to lay waste to the country, demolishing Shiite religious places and mosques and killing protesters, all the while participating in the military operation in Libya in the interests of democracy, you understand. Talking of hypocrisy, we awoke at the weekend here in Britain, I don't know if it ever made the news in your country, to the portentous announcement that Libya, the Libyan regime, was using cluster bombs against its own people. Now, leave aside the perverse idea that it's somehow more reprehensible to use cluster bombs against your own people than to use them against other people. Leave aside the fact that there was no evidence adduced for this charge, not even a mobile telephone picture of the offending articles. But of course the United States is still using cluster bombs everywhere it goes to war, as is Israel. And don't get me started on our new friends in Saudi Arabia. Now, one last point on politics and elections. The last time I was in New York, some of you who are listening were there, when I addressed a fantastic meeting organized by WBAI. I booked myself into the Trump Hotel, just around the corner from the Ethical Society where the meeting took place. I was actually mildly impressed, whisper it softly. I had expected it to be very brassy and vulgar, like the man himself, but it was actually very tasteful. And then I learned that the said Donald Trump is running for President of the United States, and I just wondered what you thought about that. He thinks that President Obama has something to hide. I think Donald Trump's got rather more to hide, don't you? Here's my telephone number, 212-209-2900. That's 212-209-2900. I hope I don't get flooded with conspiracy theory calls about 9/11. And if I do, after one or two, I'll probably have to cut you off. So don't consider me rude. It's just that I don't want a monomaniacal Wednesday morning mother of all talk shows. I want to cross all the issues that we have on our agenda. So these are the issues that I want to talk about. I won't bring the curtain down too abruptly if you have any other issues that you want to discuss, but please, let's not flood the show with 9/11. 212-209-2900. As always, this show could not happen without my good friend Aoife, who's fielding the calls for me from Glasgow to New York. Aoife, have you got anyone for me there on the line?
Yes, you have John from Long Island on the line.
John from Long Island. John, welcome to the show.
Hey, welcome. How are you?
Yes, very good. I'm in good spirits. Thank you very much.
I love your accent.
Thank you.
I was just about Donald Trump. I was wondering, since his few of his racist statements about Obama, I was wondering if the race as a whole, the black race as a whole, should just boycott the Trump empire.
Well, when I saw that he had joined the reprehensible ranks of the so-called birthers, calling into question whether or not the president is even qualified to be the president of the United States, which I think is a sub-racist agenda in any case. Well, I regretted that I'd spent money in his hotel. He's a very controversial person here in Scotland, by the way, because he's building in Aberdeenshire a huge and environmentally ravaging golf course and tourist complex, and destroying the habitat of many important species of wild birds and so on. So he's controversial everywhere. But I like to think that the people in the United States are a bit too smart to go for him for president. John, thanks for your call. Aoife, have you got any more?
You welcome.
Yes, we actually have Abby from Manhattan on the line.
Abby from Manhattan. That sounds wonderful. Go ahead. Abby, welcome.
Okay.
Did we lose Abby?
I don't know. Let's see.
Abby, are you there?
Abby? Abby?
Speak up or forever hold your peace. Yes, Abby, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
Yes, I'm very well. I'm
okay,
very happy to talk to you. Go on.
That I knew about you before you even appeared before Norm Coleman's committee.
Okay.
I had a friend in Glasgow who I met through the internet, and he told me all about you, and I was so excited I started following you.
Wow.
And I was just so excited when you came to the United States and stood up against Norm Coleman. It was so fabulous.
It was a very good day, Abby. It was my best day so far, but I'm hoping to have an even better one.
Oh, I'm sure you have many good days ahead of you. So I just want you to know I am a total supporter of you.
Thank you.
And I just want to ask you, without you getting defensive, when you open up saying that you stayed at Donald Trump's hotel,
Yeah.
I'm just asking, why would you do that? And how, why would you spend that kind of money on such a rotten guy?
Well, that's a good point, and I did just
But I'm
say...
not impugning your character.
No, not at all,
You're
not at all, Abby. No. I think it's a good point, and just a minute or two ago said I now regretted it. Although I was impressed by the hotel, I must say.
No, I appreciate that. I'm just wondering...
No, he's a bad guy, but then I'm not sure... Are there any good guys own hotels in Manhattan near Central Park?
There are more reasonably priced places. There's a YMCA that's a block away from.
Abby, I'm too old for a YMCA now. Come on, I'm a man of mature years, you know.
No. It's not a cot. It's not like a bunk bed. They have nice rooms. I swear to God.
All right, I'll bear it in mind, Abby. Thanks a lot. I hope you come and hear me next time I come to speak. I should be over there in the next month or two.
Of course I will. Take care.
Thanks so much, Abby. God bless you. Aoife, give me one more.
Yes, you have Winston from Brooklyn on the line.
Winston, nice to talk to you again, my friend. Go ahead.
Good morning. I must congratulate you on your show. It's very informative.
Thank you.
And I like your upfront way of speaking.
Well, thanks.
You're on the ball.
Well, there's no point in hiding your light under a bushel or even beating around a bush.
Exactly. Trump cannot win. He has the money to buy the votes, but he will not be able to rule. He's not a politician. He's not even such a good businessman, because several times I heard him file for bankruptcy, and.
Yes, I think he likes people to believe he's much richer than he actually is, Winston.
Exactly. His casinos on the boardwalk is not doing so well.
Well, I'm glad to hear that, because that's the devil's buttermilk casinos. Yes. I'd shut them all down myself, but yes. I'm glad to know his casinos are struggling. But his main problem for the religious right in the United States is that on some issues he's a relatively liberal person, isn't he? And yet for others, especially now that he's put himself at the head of the birther movement, he's placed himself on the right. He's neither on the left nor the right. He's on both.
He's nowhere.
Winston, thanks a lot, brother. Great to talk to you. Winston in Brooklyn. It's George Galloway. It's the mother of all talk shows.
Hello, Tony Blair here, just dashing off to pick up a check and sort out the Middle East problem. But I thought I'd just give a quick plug to the special relationship between me and George Galloway. I can't stand the man.
And the feeling is absolutely mutual. You can tell me what you think of Mr. Blair. He's the one who expelled me from the Labour Party after 36 years of membership back in 2004. But actually, I've never looked back. Don't whisper it softly. Don't tell anyone. 212-209-2900 is the number to call me. We're talking about the revolution in the Arab world, the hypocrisy of the Western response to that revolution. We're talking about Donald Trump, would you believe it, who's off and running, well, limping at least, towards the Republican nomination. And if he doesn't get that, he says that he'll stand as a third-party independent. I'd like to know from you whether he has any chance. We're talking about the age-old problem of sectarianism. I don't know. In your country it may be slightly different, although John F. Kennedy is the only Catholic ever to hold the highest office in the United States, and there certainly was a big push to stop him on bigoted grounds at the time, and you haven't had another Catholic since. In the city I'm sitting in Glasgow, and I'm in the Scottish Catholic Media Office, and I'm grateful to them for the use of their studio. There's a huge story today because several people connected to the Catholic Heritage Football Club, now talking real football with a round ball, not the pretend game that you people like to describe as football. This is soccer. And the Catholic Heritage Club Celtic, the manager, his lawyer, and a prominent politician who supports the team, as I do myself, I may say, have all received viable live bombs in the post this very morning. And we've had John from Long Island, we've had Abby from Manhattan, and Winston from Brooklyn. I'm keen to know if there are any others on the line. Aoife?
Yes, you have Steve from Wayne, New Jersey on the line.
Oh, brilliant. Steve from Wayne, New Jersey. Excellent, Steve. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Galloway, and thank you for the show.
Thanks, sir.
Do you believe that the new Egyptian government, when it's finally formed, do you think they will open up Gaza and let the people through and get
I really do, Steve. And in fact, there's already significant movement, some of it announced, some of it unannounced. The siege on Gaza has, to all intents and purposes, now been largely lifted. And once Egypt has a democratically elected government, it will be lifted entirely. More than that, Egypt, and with all its diplomatic and political weight, will henceforth be acting in the interests of the Palestinian people rather than against them. It will never again act as a jailer for the Palestinians in Gaza. It will make a big effort, I think, to strengthen the Arab side of any subsequent negotiations. I'm not talking about the farcical negotiations that we have today, the so-called peace process, which is endless process and not peace. So I'm expecting a real Arab government, and for that matter, a real Islamic government, to be elected in the free elections in Cairo, in Egypt, over the next few months, and I think that will change everything. And moreover, Steve, I think Israel knows that. And Israel, as we knew it, as an apartheid state, dealing out death and destruction, misery, all around it and underneath it, as it willed, I think it knows that those days are definitely numbered. Thanks, Steve. Aoife, anybody else?
Yes,
Aoife?
you have actually Gary from Staten Island on the line.
I don't know why, but I always like calls from Staten Island. It just sounds so glamorous to me over here. I don't know if I told you, Aoife, my great-grandmother emigrated from New York to Scotland at the end of the 19th century. I never did work out why, and most people were going in the opposite direction. But if there's anyone out there that can research it for me, let me know. Write to me at office@georgegalloway.com. Gary in Staten Island, you're up next. Go ahead, Gary.
Yes, sir. It's great to listen to your program and hear your voice.
Thanks.
Just something on the great Donster. It's about a number of years ago, I guess it was October of 2004, I witnessed Don doing his dog and pony show at the Public Relations Society of America. They had their annual conference then in 2004 at the New York Hilton. A lot of the public who's not a member of these professional organizations don't know about some of these things. Donnie was chosen as one of the keynote speakers. Uh-huh. And rather than him doing an analysis only of public relations and where we're going, where the jobs, careers, whatever, he then talks about how to be successful in America. You could find it online for that year. He essentially said this, and I was there, so I have it memorized. You want to be successful in this country and in public relations, see that you get yourself a Jew to assist you.
Oh, dear.
And it was interesting because all of these professionals, the top dogs, stayed in the grand ballroom.
None of
the
them
New
walked
York
out.
Hilton. And the ones that got paid less on the food chain, who were public relations professionals, started to storm out. And that's how I got my first initiation of him. He
really is he's a vulgar and ignorant fellow, isn't he?
He is.
Is he a university man? Was he educated?
Oh, yes, he'll proudly tell you. I have it memorized, for I was there. He said, talking about success, how is it that I went and graduated from the University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton School of Business and Finance and Economics?
It's a good university, that, too.
Oh, yes. And he said, I became successful. I couldn't understand how other people who were equally as academically intelligent were afraid to take their own business gumption to get somewhere to help themselves.
Well, there you go. That kind of racism that was implicit in that comment that made some walk out, but not others, is, I think, the kind of skeleton in his cupboard that will haunt him out of the race. I mean, he had the gall to launch a personal attack on the president, when in fact people who live in glass houses really shouldn't throw those kind of stones. And it being the airwaves and family listening time, I won't go into some of the skeletons I myself know about. But if I know about them, thousands of miles away, there are plenty of people who know enough about Mr. Trump to scupper his chances. At least I hope so. Gary in Staten Island, thank you very much indeed for coming on the show. This is the mother of all talk shows with George Galloway on WBAI. My telephone number is 212-209-2900. Aoife, do we have any more?
Yes, you have John from Princeton, New Jersey.
Excellent. John, welcome.
Good morning. It's a pleasure talking to you. Always, whenever I have the chance, tune in and listening to your commentator. Very exciting and very, very on top of the issues.
Thanks, John.
I'd like to hear your comments about the mobsters and gangsters that sit in the Congress and the Senate. The reason why I bring up that, it's funny, a week ago when they were wrangling on both sides of the aisle as to this budget and how it's going to be passed. But yet they tell the American people, oh, we may shut this thing down, but you have to pay your taxes by April the 15th or else. Well, they tentatively got it passed, and they're still wrangling and fighting, but they stick it to the American people to let them know you got to pay your taxes or else they'll send the gangsters after you, which is IRS. I'd like to hear your comments.
Well, absolutely correct. The public always have to pay, but the state doesn't always have to deliver the services for which the people are paying. And in your country, there are precious few of those services in any case. The long period of Reaganomics under both Republican and Democratic administrations have left the public services shrunken and parched in the United States, as the long period of Thatcher economics here in our own country has done the same, though probably slightly less than in your country. And the gangsters, as you put it, of the US Congress are, of course, emboldened by the recent successes of the Republican right in the Congress and in the Senate, and they hope that they are going to conquer the commanding heights of the US political scene in the next period. But my guess is, and I lived through Newt Gingrich's attempt to basically freeze the government and stop it from operating in a previous era under Bill Clinton, and it didn't work in the favour of the Republican right. I'd be interested to know from you and from other callers how the public have viewed this logjam. My guess last time is that they blamed Gingrich and they blamed the Republicans. I don't know if it's the same now. What do you say?
Well, I do agree with you. I think Gingrich tried to do a behind-the-scene hijack of the American economy, and I do agree with you. It did not work. So now you have... Is
it working this time, John?
Well, I don't think it's working now, but I say to you, something has to give. Something has to give. And what I mean by that is, I think in order for America to get back on track, you know the old saying, history repeats itself over and over and over again. In order for America to get back on track, we need a revolution. We need to take the gangster in the Congress and the Senate, kick them out. Just throw them all out and start this mess all over again, because it does not work. You cannot sustain 28, probably over $30 trillion in debt and think the party is going to go on. Well, the party has been over a long time ago, and the American people, as long as Congress and the Senate can keep the American people ahead in the sand, they can keep their madness going, and the stealing will just continue. And as Malcolm X used to say, the chickens have come home to roost.
Well, that's fighting talk from John in Princeton, New Jersey. Let me know what you think of what he had to say. 212-209-2900. This is George Galloway. It's the mother of all talk shows.
Fighting the golden flakes of change with the milk of human kindness. This is the mother of all talk shows, and George Galloway.
Mr. President, that made no sense whatsoever.
I know. That's why I said it.
That's really the problem,
isn't it? This is the President of the United States.
With President Obama, isn't that the problem? That sometimes his rhetoric is ahead of his achievements, and sometimes it is, well, just rhetoric. but he's a lot better than the available alternatives, certainly better than Donald Trump, if you ask me. We're talking about Donald Trump and his campaign for election. We can talk, if you like, about the elections here in the United Kingdom and in occupied Ireland, and we're talking also about the revolution in the Arab world. 212-209-2900. Ife, give me the next one.
Yes, you have another, Jonathan from New Jersey.
Okay, Jonathan, welcome.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. Good to talk to New Jersey.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I wouldn't be surprised if someone like a Donald Trump, one of the Republican candidates, get in there. The reason why I say that is because I find the people here in the United States, particularly the Midwest and the southern states, to be extremely naive. The very fact that the Republicans who created the problem in the first place got in there in the midterm election, I won't be surprised if Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity, Glenn Beck, and all these characters are able to mislead the American people into voting against their interests.
Well, I think that's a very good way of putting it, and that's exactly what many people in the United States did and have regularly done ever since the 20s and 30s, when there was a progressive polity in the United States. People have voted for Tweedledee and Tweedledum, haven't they? They've voted. The only thing you could be sure about in American elections is who was going to lose, and who was going to lose was the working people.
Let me say one last thing. Hello?
Yeah, go on, Jonathan.
Yeah, particularly I find I'm a 33-year-old black male here, and I particularly find that it seems to me that the white people are the ones who are totally in denial about the realities of the situation that we are living in here in America. I think black people and the other Spanish people, I think they are a little bit more conscious of the reality of life in America, and we know what it's like to struggle, and we know what having nothing is like. And I think that it's beginning to catch up with a lot of the whites now, and I wouldn't be surprised if they vote someone like one of those Newt Gingrich or one of those kind of Republican folks back in there, because I really believe that. I really believe that they're totally naive, the white people here, in the South and in the Midwest. That's just how, I mean, the very fact that the Republicans got back the House, I mean, come on now. You know what I mean?
No, it's bamboozling. What do you do, by the way, Jonathan? What's your job, just as a matter of interest?
I would rather not disclose that.
All right. Thanks for that. Of course, the ultimate situation would be if one were faced with the choice of Donald Trump versus Sarah Palin. How would a progressive vote then? 212-209-2900. That's the number to call me. Ife, give me another call.
You have Abdul Malak from Queens.
Abdul Malak, very, very welcome. Thanks very much for calling. Go ahead.
Yes. I would just like to, it's actually Abdul Malik. And I just
Abdul Malik, salaam alaikum. Yes. Go ahead.
Wa alaikum salam. And I would like to say good morning, and I really truly appreciate the truth coming off your show. I would like to ask your actual opinion, your professional opinion on a couple of things. I've noticed recently in the news and for the last few years now, it's been this push to promote democracy as we know it here in America as the only right way and the only good way to rule a country or rule a people or a sovereign state, and to put this dark light on the Sharia as a whole as in itself being evil or repressive in some way. And with all the holes being punched in democracy now, as we see the Congress and the Republicans and the Democrats going back and forth and doing so much damage to the economy, to the people, to the environment as a whole, I would just like to see your view and hear what you have to say about the democracy and the Sharia being, compared. And also, is it more or less the oligarchy or the people in control of the democracy or the Sharia who are really to blame, or whether the good goes to the people in the countries or in the southern states that they're ruling?
Well, thanks for the call. I'm for democracy myself, and I usually find that people who argue, I don't mean yourself, that, it's up to each country to decide on its political system and so on. That's usually argued by people who have power and don't want to share it, far less be removed from it. So I'm in favour of whatever form it takes, because the Westminster model of democracy is not the only one, neither, for that matter, is the American form of democracy the only form that exists. But I'm in favour of one man, one woman, one vote to elect a government and unelect it at the end of a term if the people so decide. Now, countries can, of course, define themselves as Islamic countries, although they're required, I think, by the universal and eternal human rights which we all have, to grant and respect, not just grant on paper, but respect the rights of religious minorities. But it's important, I think, to place on record that notwithstanding the blizzard of Islamophobia that exists, notwithstanding the deliberate, willful propaganda to paint Sharia, which they usually describe as Sharia law, which is a tautology because Sharia means law, you can have Islamic law, but you have to have politicians, elected politicians, in charge of your country so that you can get rid of them. If you have some kind of caliph, which is the platform of some of the pan-Islamist organizations, trust me, that caliph will be there for as long as he lives, and it won't be long before he's lining up his son as the next caliph. Thank you, my friend, in Queens, and let's see if Ife has another call.
Yes, you have Mark from the Bronx.
Mark in the Bronx. Welcome, Mark.
Okay, good morning. How you doing there?
Very well. Great to hear you, sir.
Okay. Well, my comment is totally different. I look at Donald Trump as being a joke, my brother, because first of all, he don't really do nothing for us in this city anyways, and he's like one of these rich elites that, helping out the mayors throughout time since New York City gives him breaks to put up all these buildings, Trump Plaza, casinos, the Taj Mahal, all these things, so we down here in the ghetto, we look at Donald Trump as being a joke. First of all, when he's saying that Obama is not even an American, everybody in this country is an immigrant, my brother, because, the only place that belongs is the Native American Indians.
Yes, and there's not many of them running for president.
Anything else than that, the white people from Europe, the black people from Africa, wherever you from, they're all immigrants, regardless whether if they born here or they still, we look at them as immigrants, because the times have changed. The history books have been wrong, my brother, and England and all these places, we look at them as being the devil, they're being the beast, because they're all working with Obama, the Queen, all of them, the Pope, all of them, we look at all of them being straight up peace. That's it. 666. We don't care about them down here in the ghetto, man. And that's the way Donald Trump and everything, all these people, they're all jokes to us. That's all I gotta say.
Well, you've bowled over.
That's my anger coming out, because you know what? When they're gonna go ahead and say stuff like that, to us down here in the ghetto, we go through more hardship than anything down here, man.
Okay, I've only got one question to ask you. You dealt with all the big ones. Let's deal with a small one. Is Donald Trump's hair real or fake?
That's a wig, man, I ain't got time for...
WBAI, New York, 99.5 FM.
People like you and some other, Irish people that's against England and the empire and, other things like that, we believe in that. People that's going to fight for the struggle, but people that's not out with the struggle, they could burn, man. That's the way we look at it.
Well, that's Mark, unequivocal.
I just gotta say, I still got a lot of respect for you, but, that's how it is, man.
Thank you, Mark. Unequivocal in the Bronx, 212-209-2900.
Here he is, comrades. George Galloway and the mother of all talk shows, guaranteed to destroy all weapons of mass deception.
Well, I think that was Vladimir Putin. But it might have been President Medvedev, or it might have just been someone pretending to be a Russian. But I'm not pretending to be anything. I am what I seem to be. I do exactly what it says on the tin. I fight for justice and for freedom and against war and occupation and the exploitation of man by man. 212-209-2900. Tell me your take on the events we're discussing today. Aoife.
Yes, you have Dennis from Staten Island.
Dennis, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hi.
I want to thank you, and I want to thank WBAI in New York for this program. It's wonderful. I enjoy it.
Thank you, Dennis.
As far as Mr. Trump, businessmen being politicians, my experience with our mayor, Mr. Bloomberg, the politician businessman, has been that it seems that businessmen look at politics the same way they look at their businesses, that there's a mark, whatever it's called, and the money goes from the mark, from the people who are paying, to them, to profits. And what the mayor has done to New York City, while he touts the fact that he's not raising taxes, he's bleeding anybody who can't leave this city, who has a business, who lives here, who has children in school, who has a home here. He's bleeding us to death. What he's doing, I'm an architect here, and I deal with the building department, so that's my whatever I see daily. Mm-hmm. What he's doing is raising fees on everything. He wants to charge people for having building department inspections. He wants private companies to do inspections. And I've heard him say this on television, that he looks at this as creating jobs, which is true. The building inspector who's hired, the asbestos inspector who's hired, the people you have to hire to deal with the city agencies, the expediters, they're all making money. But they're making money off the public, off the people, the middle class, who are trying to make a living in this city and live here. And that's the way businessmen look at things. Take the money out of your pocket and put it in there.
Well, Dennis, I wouldn't myself vote for a businessman who wanted to be a politician for those reasons. In the famous words of, I think, Bernard Shaw, though it may have been Oscar Wilde, that these are people who know the price of everything but the value of nothing. And values are what drive politics, or ought to. But I've got to say this. Bloomberg, unless I'm wrong, and I could be, because I'm not an expert on it, Bloomberg gets re-elected with thumping majorities, doesn't he? So the public get what they vote for, don't they?
Well, let me tell you something. Feudalism is alive and well in the world today. And people, normal people, want to relate to the king. They want to relate, like the Pope. The regular Slavs like me want to, they think by voting for a rich controller of everything, that somehow, the same thing with our congressman on Staten Island. The people here in Staten Island voted for a Republican. They sent him to Congress. And now he's cutting our health care. He's cutting our schools. He's cutting, everything. They just want to, they feel like associating with the rich. It's like the feudal Slav in the mud.
Kind of collusion, collusion. Dennis, that's a great call, I must say. 212-209-2900. That's the number to call to join this debate. This is George Galloway. It's the mother of all talk shows. And if Aoife wasn't there, we wouldn't be happening. Aoife, what have you got?
Well, I have Gloria Victoria from Manhattan.
What a fabulous, glorious name. Gloria. Glorious Gloria. Go ahead.
Gloria. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right. I've got a book in front of me, and on the contents, and I'll read them off, and you'll hear where I'm coming from.
Okay.
It's called, Great Irish Tales of Fantasy and Myth.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, yes. I'll need a few, just The Hound of Ulster.
Oh, yes.
Rosin.
Yes.
The Death of Matcha Goldenhair. Excuse my bad Gaelic.
No, you're doing very well.
Midir and Eten. The Bewitching of Percy. The Voyage of Naldun. The Hero of Michan. The Return of Cuchulainn. I know a bit about him. And then a story I love. Crotty Shinkwint. You know him?
Yes, of
and
course.
And then There's the Island Turned Upside Down. And the last two are The Devil and Democracy by Brian Cleave and The Last Warrior Quest by Peter Tremaine.
Well, I must congratulate you on your choice of reading material. As half an Irishman myself,
what's the other half, my love?
Scottish. I'm half Irish, half Scottish, yes.
Well, God bless us and Lord have mercy upon us for the Battle of the Boyne and all those dreadful things. I know my history and I know my bonny
Clearly, and of course the Battle of the Boyne is still resounding because you'll have heard what I said about the bombs today.
No, I didn't, but I'm right on top of what's going on. I don't have a computer. I can't use one. All I've got is a landline. But
well, Gloria.
All right, I know. I read a lot.
I
read a lot of books with Inspector Rebus, and I know all about the
Inspector Rebus. Yes,
going on in down there.
That's in Edinburgh, I think.
I know, yes,
Inspector
of course,
Rebus.
because it is, my dear.
Gloria, take a bit of advice from me. Mm-hmm. Get yourself a computer. You're never too old to learn.
I'm working on it. I'm tearing apart my little studio room here, and I've got a bad back, and it's hard, but I've got tons and tons and tons of books, most of them reference works. I speak 4 languages, all right?
Fabulous. Well, you're a Renaissance woman. Gloria, thanks for calling us. 212-209-2900. Aoife, give me one more.
Well, right now you have Fidel from the Upper West Side.
Fidel.
Yes,
That's
sir.
a famous name. You're welcome.
How are you?
I'm very well. Fidel Castro is a good friend of mine.
I hear that.
He took his final bow, perhaps, yesterday.
Yes, I saw that, and that's precisely why I'm calling you.
Go on.
Well, I was raised in this country. I was born in Cuba. Half of my family is still there, and they have gone through incredible hardships. My uncle had to have a prosthesis in this country because the Cuban government would not replace it. My family cannot come and visit me whenever they'd like to. So my question to you is, why is this? I just want to understand what you mean when you say this person is a good friend of mine and you ring so many praises upon him.
Yeah. Viva Fidel, and I don't mean you. I mean the other Fidel.
Okay,
Viva
tell me why?
Fidel. I'll tell you why, and thanks for calling. I really
you're
do.
Welcome.
I really do like to be challenged on these things. The average life expectancy of the people of Cuba, a poor third world country, is higher than it is in the United States. Infant mortality, that is the number of young babies and small children under the age of 12 months who die, is lower in Cuba than it is in the United States of America. Cuba was a bordello, a casino and a bordello for the American criminal class before the triumph of the Cuban Revolution. Cuba has written its name in the stars under the leadership of Fidel Castro. You go in around Africa, you go around the third world, you talk about the achievements of the health service in Cuba. You watch Michael Moore's movie, Sicko, and compare and contrast the health service in Cuba with the health service in the United States, and you'll begin to get some measure of the man. Now, Fidel, there have been many mistakes made, and Raul and Fidel acknowledge those mistakes. But if your family are not able to visit you as often as they would like,
no, they never
trust
can.
me, well, that's not the fault of Cuba. That's the fault of the U.S. interest section in Cuba, which deliberately blocks people seeking visas to come and visit the United States. The reason you can't send money is because of the restrictions imposed by the United States. Let's drop the embargo. Let's reach out and shake hands across the Florida Straits and let 1,000 flowers bloom. The historic leadership in Cuba, by the march of time, will soon be gone. A new relationship needs to develop. You could buy that, can't you?
I agree with everything you have said. I have seen Michael Moore's movie. I am one of the few, I think, liberal Cubans, and I get chastised by my Cuban brethren because of my willingness to accept what you have just said. However, the point still remains that I don't think I've ever heard the acknowledgement of the mistakes from the brothers, and that would be something that would make me come more to that side of understanding what has gone on. I understand that the United States has not played fair with Cuba, but on the other hand, there have been so many restrictions, and there is an elite class in Cuba that exists if you participate in the government, and the local people, like here, get to live in squalor, pretty much.
No, I don't actually buy that last point, Fidel. I was very grateful for the previous points that you just made, but I don't buy that last point. Let me tell you something. The last time I was in Cuba, for any length of time, researching my book on Fidel, which is called the Fidel Castro Handbook, I was living in a very, very lower mid-market block of apartments. My next-door neighbour in this lower mid-market block of apartments was the son of Ernesto Che Guevara. He got up for work at 6 o'clock in the morning every day. I used to meet him in the lift. He earned $30 per month. That's not elite living, my friend. And if the son of Che Guevara is not part of the elite, when his father's memory is revered by hundreds of millions of people around the world who could go on tour tomorrow, I could organize it. I could put the son of Che Guevara on tour tomorrow for the rest of his life, living in 5-star hotels and getting honoraria at every stop. But he goes to work in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs like any other government servant every day, and he gets $30 a month.
I have one last question.
Well, let me make one last point then. Where you will get a privileged class now is the fact that Cuba is having to adopt certain aspects of the capitalist economic system.
Correct.
That's where you'll get the privileges.
Which makes me very fearful, because I see it coming, how they're opening up for new markets, and I can hear the talk. However, I have one last question. If it is so great, why are so many people risking their lives constantly to get out of there?
Well, why are so many people not doing that, but content to stay there?
Because they're afraid.
Even amongst the elite. No. Teofilo Stevenson was the greatest heavyweight, other than Muhammad Ali, that ever lived. Stevenson could have defected on any one of the hundreds of overseas visits that he went, as could Alberto Juan Torino, the great middle-distance runner. They and Dame Alicia Alonso and hundreds, thousands of other cultural and sporting elite Cubans who never left Cuba, who always went back to Cuba. And the vast majority of Cubans stay there because, like you, I suspect, they love their country.
Oh,
they may have political differences, but they love their country.
Well, I think that there's still a lot more research that needs to be done before the verdict is finally
You're right,
out.
Fidel. You've got a lot more research still to do. But I'm glad that you learned something here today. Thanks very much for calling me. I appreciate it very much indeed. That was Fidel from New York City, 212-209-2900. That's the number to call. This is George Galloway. This is the mother of all talk shows.
There are known knowns. There are known unknowns. Garden knowns. But there are also unknown unknowns. Here's one of them. George Galloway with his mother of all talk shows. Didn't we regime change that guy?
They thought they had regime changed this guy, but they failed. I'm still here, and they're all gone. 212-209-2900. Ife, give me another, please.
Yes, you have Vincent from Jersey City.
Vincent, welcome to the show.
Good welcome to you, George. Glad to hear you.
Thanks, friend.
Effie said Jersey City. Jersey City is a place where Donald Trump also has a presence.
Oh, really?
Yes, he recently completed a huge condominium project with the help of his allies in City Hall. Uh-huh. It's on the so-called Gold Coast, where dozens of Wall Street firms, including Goldman Sachs, have planted themselves.
I believe I saw it in The Sopranos. The Sopranos, by the way, is the greatest thing I have ever seen on television. How do people in Jersey feel about it?
Well, I don't watch it myself because I don't like the media to begin with. I just can't even listen to it anymore.
Okay. I'm glad you're making an exception this morning.
Oh, well, of course. Absolutely.
Anyway, we'll discuss that point later. I want to hear from people in New Jersey. How do they feel that The Sopranos disparages the state unfairly? But go ahead and make your point, Vincent. Sorry.
The candidacy of Trump, it seems to me, reading through the lines, that he's really not interested in winning. He wants to be a spoiler. He knows he's not going to win. He'll attract a lot of crazies, but I don't think he's has a chance of winning.
Who do you think will get the gig then?
The guy from Romney?
Massachusetts, Romney. He's certainly the richest. He's much richer than Donald Trump.
Well, money is the big thing here in Jersey City on the waterfront too. the taxes to pay for the breaks that these people have got from the government are being borne by the low middle class here, and these people are losing their homes at the same time that the city has given through foreclosure, and the city has been giving these people abatements for 30, 40 years.
Vincent, great talking to you, my friend. I'm glad you made an exception for WBAI in your dislike of the media. Aoife, let's try one more call before we have to wrap up.
Well, you have KJ from Queens.
KJ in Queens, welcome to the show.
Well, George, good morning. And I must tell you, from the macro to the micro, you got it going. I just hope you work on the format a little bit, 'cause even though I appreciate the open forum and ability for people to call in, your wit is incredible.
What would you like to see changed?
No. Right now, you keep going. I think you'll hit your button. You're sharp enough to pick up on most topics. I just hope what you will do is keep educating people, because we're in times pretty much economically where this place, America, could fall apart by virtue of our own idiosyncrasies of race and religion and class. And somehow we need a binding force that really speaks truth to power. I think you can do that from your outside point of view and inside. On issue of Fidel, certainly I agree with you. Viva Fidel in Cuba forever, because that's correct. It was a bordello, and for the most part, it would fall to the wayside like Haiti or Grenada if Fidel and his vibrancy and what his party has done for much of the third world, if I may say so, South America to Africa. We owe a great debt to Fidel.
Well, you'll know this, KG, but not everyone will. When Nelson Mandela was freed from the dungeons of apartheid, he could have gone anywhere in the world, and all the hypocrites who had supported apartheid would have rolled out the red carpet for him. But he went directly to Havana, because Cuba played a bigger role than any other outside agency in the destruction of apartheid and the freeing of the majority there.
Correct. And in terms of liberation struggle, Cuba is owed, incredible debt. And in terms of its support of health care. If that's the whole thing, we really get a chance to examine Cuba without some of these rabid anti-Castro people who live here in America, who happen to be formerly Cuban. I hope they consider themselves somehow American and then brainwashed to some extent like most of us. But if we get it right, if we open up and really take an analysis of Cuba versus America, there's a lot we can learn. And the reason why people stayed in Cuba, the majority of them, is because they do have values over a price of other things.
That's right. The dollar is not necessarily king in all things.
My
KJ, a brilliant, great call. KJ, I have to finish. Maybe we'll talk again. I hope so. This is Steve Earle, a great American who lived for a long time in rebel Cork in the Irish Republic. Steve Earle and Jerusalem. I've been George Galloway. This has been, I hope, a good show. I enjoyed it very much indeed. I talked about Libya, I talked about revolution, I talked about Ireland, I talked about Scotland, and above all, I talked about the United States. We aim to be a bridge across the Atlantic. We aim to help to rally, and yes, as KJ said, maybe educate some of the listeners. Doesn't mean I'm always right. I was wrong once. I think it was in February. It might have been March of 1975. But I'm usually right. And if I'm not, I want you to tell me here on WBAI. It's called the mother of all talk shows. And I'm George Galloway. And until we meet again, God willing, may you go in peace.